And yay! Okay, we are live.
Hi,
Hello.
everybody.
Okay, so if you're cool, we're going to kind of jump right on in because I got a lot of questions for you, Kate. So,
Okay.
hi, everybody. If you
Hi.
don't know this amazing human being next to me, I'm going to let Kate introduce herself because she's fabulous and you need to know her.
Oh, why, thank you. Well, I think that you're fabulous as well. So, hey, everybody. I am Kate Doster of katedoster.com, and it is my soul and soul's mission to put money in the hands of good people so they can do good with it and to eradicate this idea that nice people finish last in 2022. Because the truth is, people love to spend money. Like, I guarantee that if I asked you, hey, have you bought anything on Amazon in the last 2 weeks? Your answer is yes. So why would you want people to buy from you? Somebody who actually cares about their audience, who is going to go above and beyond for them, who's not just going to treat them like some throwaway dollar sign. So that is what I do. We help primarily with sales, mindset, and psychology, and email marketing.
I love that. Very concise and beautiful. Yeah. Money into the hands of good people. And you guys are good people. So I've got a lot of questions for you, Kate. So are you ready?
Do it. I am very excited.
Yes. Perfect. So number one is we know about email lists and how important they are. But the big struggle that a lot of people have is how do I get the right people on my email list? Care to give any insight on that?
Sure. So it's a twofold approach. And you're going to find, especially with my attitude towards unsubscribes, that if these like two bouncers, because that's essentially what they really are not set up well, the riffraff is going to come in. And we just don't allow that because only cool people can hang out with us and only cool people get to hang out with you in the inbox. Like it's a privilege to be on your email list. So the very first thing is your freebie, lead magnet, opt-in gift, ethical bribe if you're gross and usually an old white guy. But your freebie, you want to make sure it's answering a yeah, but question that somebody has about your particular niche or whatever you've decided to focus on. Because if they already have some type of excuse, then that means they've at least been taking it more seriously than like everybody else out there, right? So if you were going to do something about bullet journaling, because say, even if you don't have a bullet journaling product yet, in your head, you'd really like to actually make one. I mean, you're hanging out with Caroline. So she's going to show you how to make some really cute things in Canva for that. Just saying, like, guys, get the stuff. But in the back of your head, you kind of secretly know what you want to sell a product on. So you're going to think to yourself, or you're going to go out and research and you're like, what is a yeah, but that someone's going to have about bullet journaling? Yeah, but I never stick to it. Yeah, but it's too cumbersome. Yeah, but it just doesn't work for me. Yeah, but. So we call that the Sir Mix-a-Lot principle. So, because just like he likes big butts, so does your email list and your wallets. Because what we want to do is we want to answer one of those yeah buts really well and really specifically. Because we know there's a whole bunch of stuff when it comes to productivity, right? Because maybe that's where you're genuinely going towards. You love productivity, you love systems, like that's what you're all about. We know that that's a spectrum of stuff. But if you can solve a person's 1 point problem, so maybe it's just like, getting started with bullet journaling, or maybe it's like a little 3-day challenge or 5-day challenge on how to actually stick with journaling this time around, because a lot of times people just don't do it. Then all of a sudden they're going to be like, oh my goodness, like how did they know that that's my problem with bullet journaling? And like, this is amazing. What else do you have? And that's really what we're going for. So we want to make sure that our lead magnet itself is only attracting people who have been thinking really truly solve a problem, because that's going to start resonating action takers. And rather than going big and broad in general, I think going really specific, almost one of those mile deep sort of scenarios, is a lot better because like, oh, it's so efficient. And then in your freebie, whether it is a PDF, like I said, a 5-day challenge or whatever the modality is, you're going to show them that that's just one piece of the whole puzzle. But since you solved that one piece so well, they're going to want everything else, right? The other thing that you need to do to set up your bouncer is your landing page and even your opt-in forms. But honestly, technically, you could go as far as any of the content that you create. Basically, you want to make sure that people are cool enough to pass your vibe check, right? So you're going to make sure that the languages that you're using on your landing page, on your free content, in social media, line up with that. So like I say stuff like spammer face all of the time, and I talk about how typos are not a bad thing. So if you're like super type A, probably I'm not the person for you if you're looking for super rigid business advice, and that's fine. So you're going to make sure that all of the outward content that you're putting out really does have that sort of personal flair. And you don't have to go above and beyond, but if you're one of those people, like, you know, you're going to swear in the inbox, that's just the way you naturally are. You're not putting up a front to swear to be cool, but that's just you. Then make sure you're swearing on those things so people know what's coming. So that's how we make sure we're getting the right people on our email list. We're going to have a freebie that answers the Sir Mix-a-Lot principle, a yeah, but try to get as specific as you can. Sometimes it's the wrong, but it happens, but you can upcycle that freebie in a myriad of ways. So do not worry about it. And you want to make sure that your landing pages and all of your outward facing content really does have your personality, your style, so that way people know, like, this is my person. I want to learn from them.
It's perfect. So I want to circle back really quick to something that you said that I know when I first read it, it was like when you first said it the first time I heard it, like years and years ago, I was like, the sky has opened, the clouds have parted, the sun is shining upon my face for the very first time. And it was celebrate the unsubscribes. Can you talk a little bit about what that means a little bit in like a little more detail?
Sure. So you can think about subscribes. And again, you're going to notice that I like to treat people like people, and I'm going to treat you guys like actual people. Oh, I know, right? So you can take two approaches to unsubscribe depending on how just resonates with you. One, you can take a more Pollyanna, pink colored glasses approach and just be like, you know what? They unsubscribed because they don't need my help anymore with productivity. Like, they've got it under control. It's not something that they need to focus on. Like, I'm so excited. They've graduated from needing my help. Like, they have got their healthy eating down pat. That's amazing, right? So you can take that approach. Or you can take the other approach, which is not like a screw them, they suck type of mentality, but it's like, good riddance. Like, I don't need you here. Because having somebody who is not going to open your stuff, who's not going to click your stuff, who's like hate reading your stuff, like, you don't want that energy and that vibe. So the unsubscribes are a good thing because that means you're actually emailing your list. And I know that a lot of people get so much self-worth about, oh, like, I need to have 1,000 subscribers or 10,000 subscribers, or like, I'm the coolest. It's like, that number doesn't matter if you don't talk to them. And so then people will be like, well, I don't want to email my list because then I won't have 1,000 people. I'd rather you have a strong relationship with 100 people than nobody knows who you are. 1,000 people don't know that, or 10,000 people. So when you celebrate those unsubscribes, think of it as, I'm actually taking action. Like, that's what I'm actually taking action. And very, very, very rarely, when you've got your freebie set up in your outward content, are you going to get someone sending you hate mail? And then if they do send you hate mail back to any of your emails, you're like, I literally did this. We got one whole piece of hate mail last year, just one. And I was like, and they were like, they didn't like that I said, like, it was home slice, which I say all of the time everywhere. And so, like, how did this person get in here? Like, who let her in? Like, that was like my thing. So I'm like searching to figure out, like, who let this person in here? Like, just absolutely not. Like, you're not allowed to hang out with me. You are not my type of person. So we don't get to be inbox besties. And when you start thinking of it that way, all of it's like, yeah. Because, like, why am I going to punish Cynthia, who likes my style, or who likes learning from me, or who's really into meal planning at this current time, just because Bobby Sue over there might hate it that I call my kids blessings and that I'm really into green smoothies? Like, screw her. I need to go help my other person, and I'm not going to let the potential backlash prevent me from helping my people. Like, that's where that whole screw you attitude comes in. It's not like, oh, they're the worst. It's like, no. Like, you're not going to stop me. I'm going to help people. So get out.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. So my next question now is, how do I know if I'm annoying my readers by sending them too many emails? Like,
if you're repeating yourself constantly, that's probably going to be too annoying. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. So what I mean by that, and I'll like get a little bit more matter of fact. Like, if you're like, oh, 3 hours left, 2 hours left, 1 hour left, 5 hours left, and that's all the content of your email, and it's not some type of additional insight or talking about an additional bonus or showing the people what they could be capable of. Say, we're talking like in a launch style, right? Yeah, that's going to annoy people, right? But if you're always going into this mentality of, why do people go to their inbox? They go because they're looking to be distracted. They want a quick dopamine hit. So if you're sending stuff, I don't personally send daily, but technically if you're sending entertaining emails, or something that I should say is easily digestible, we'll call it that way. Because say you're not like a very humorous person, like Kate, I would never say spammer face. That would sound stupid. You need to stick to your own style, right? So you could technically send every day if you want to. When it comes time, especially for something that is very time-based, like a launch, like a flash sale, like you guys are hosting a webinar, do not feel bad about sending that one extra email because, spoiler alert, not everybody reads all of your stuff. And sometimes people take a day off from their inbox, right? So you might be on page 2 and they might have really been able to benefit from your class. So it's just like we have a webinar, spoiler alert, coming up on Monday and Tuesday next week. And I've sent a couple emails about it. We've sent a couple to people that haven't necessarily opened. On Monday morning, before we go ahead and start live, I'm going to send one more email just in case, because I don't know. And so that's what I would have to say. Don't just repeat yourself constantly. Again, you can say like, you're going to find that you mention like the same tips sort of like all the time. That's different. I'm talking about like really leaning in on that like urgency and scarcity and not having anything else in there.
I love that. So like, do you believe in the concept of like, you can annoy your perfect people just by sending them like a regular email, not necessarily like a launch email, but like in your regular emails that you send?
No, I don't think that you could annoy them because again, you're setting up the proper sort of system. So that way you're only getting people who do want to hear about the stuff that you talk about. And again, when it's stuff that you actually love talking about, because this is another thing, especially with people who are bloggers, just because you have a post blow up does not mean you should create a freebie about it. If you do not care about Cricut printables, but you happen to create it and it got picked up by Google or Pinterest, do not create one for it because you're never going to want to talk to those people. It's not going to work. You're going to maximize that with ads. You're going to use affiliate income. You can use other ways to have that particular piece of content build your business, but you're not going to have it build your email list because you don't want to talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think that you could annoy them. There might be some people, again, some people maybe in a business to consumer market, but if you tell people off the bat that you email every day, like if you're going to be a daily emailer, which I don't recommend to people. I mean, you can if you want to, then they would know it coming into it. So I like make sure like everyone knows like I email on the regular, or you can even let them know, again, say if you are business to consumer, it's like, you're going to hear from me 3 times a week. And if you want to, depending on your email service provider, I'm sure you can set up a tagging system where if and you only want to hear from me once a week, click here and I'll just send you like a roundup email. There's a lot of different things you can do, but don't let that fear of annoying one person prevent you from talking to 100, 10, 1,000 other people that want to hear from you.
I adore that so much. So now that we're again talking about emails, once we have somebody on our list, they've just now signed up, they're a right person. How many emails should go into a welcome sequence? And like, is there like some secret formula to like the perfect welcome sequence that you have that you could share?
Why, thank you. So I don't want to say that anything is perfect because like I said, you've got to treat people like people. So like Caroline and I, like we enjoy emailing in real time. So for us, having a welcome series that say maybe 3, even say 5 emails long works for us because we're always constantly iterating stuff. We've always got something new going on. There's always something that we can talk about. So for us, having a shorter welcome series like that is perfect. But if you're somebody who knows that you're not going to email on the regular and most of your content is pretty evergreen in the sense like, you know, maybe talk about health and nutrition. So you might want to talk about like holidays and stuff. But in general, if it's not changing, like say Facebook ad marketing, you could set up a longer welcome series. So people could essentially be in a welcome series for like a month, 2 months, 3 months. It just depends on how often you want to send that. That one is entirely up to you. But if you like to do new things and you like to email randomly, I would keep it a little bit shorter, to be honest with you. And I think that when it comes to the welcome series, you want to make sure in that first email, if you have what I like to call a one-off freebie, so a PDF, a download, and audio, something that isn't a multiple day thing, your goal is to make sure that people actually consume it. Like, let's be honest, right? So I think that your second email should be like a quick tip. And I always like to share a little story of why this came up so that way people can actually relate to a little bit more. So I call it quick tip in a pickle. We call it in Love Your List in our big course. And then it's always pushing them back to the freebie because you spent so much time on that freebie. And we make sure that your freebie is set up strategically to always show them what the next move is. So if you do have a paid product, guess what? Your freebie is going to advertise that. If you don't quite yet, wherever your major touch point is, whether it's a Facebook group, whether it's Instagram that you're growing, whether it's YouTube, you're going to point people towards that next step so they have another touch point with you. The third email, I like to do what I call the rant email because I do think that people should get to know you. And I used to have my students share like their origin stories or like why they're passionate about their thing. And everyone would just stop writing because people hate talking about themselves. But everybody likes to complain. So we'll have that rant email. And in that rant email, if you want to just be like, I absolutely hate in my industry that people will, do, calories in versus calories out and all this other stuff. And I know that it's really this, blah, 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 blah. You can totally, which got me, or which is why, which is one of my favorite turn of phrases. And you can pitch something that you have paid in that. Like, I don't think that there has to be any like, oh, like I have to wait till like email number 4, email number 5. When I teach my students, we usually make it email number 4 just because I want to make sure you do it. But you could technically weave it in anywhere when you have your person's best interest at heart. So I would say for most people, try for that 5. That 5th one is usually just going to be like maybe, a piece of content that you have, something that you're proud of or something that sort of shows your authority. And then it's just letting them know how often they're going to hear from you. And if you have more of a lifestyle blog in that 5th email, you're going to let them know, I know that we've been talking a lot about productivity, but I also talk about home organization and budgeting because being efficient in the way your home is set up and with your money is really dang important. So now that we've got time pretty much settled, we're going to be tackling about some of those other areas weekly as well. So now they know what's happening. When there's no other shoe to drop, no one's going to be like, but I signed up for this, right? So that's it.
That's perfect. And I love that you left it open to like, if you want to make your welcome sequence longer, like this is your business. Like you do what you want.
Know yourself, people. Know yourself.
Yep. I don't think that there's like a textbook answer for anything in email that is like a hard and fast rule that like
maybe don't call your people effing morons every week. That's about it. I mean, maybe they're into that, but I probably don't call them idiots.
Probably a good move. That's probably a good move. Okay, valid.
We'll go with that one.
Hey, yeah, let's go with that. That is a golden rule. Don't make your people feel bad about themselves like that. Okay. Exactly. So let's talk about subject lines really quick. Because somebody asked a really good question, which was clever over clear subject lines. So if you have a subject line where you have an email and you're like, okay, I want to promote my webinar, right? So are you going to use a subject line that is more like, you won't believe that this happened, or join the webinar?
I think that honestly, you should A/B test. So any email service provider, and just Google your email service provider and A/B testing, and that'll get you there. So you're like, oh, how do I do this? Just go or ask their customer support, right? So you can go and ask their customer support how you can do that. And then you can test it out to sort of see what your audience responds to. I find in the business to business space, like sometimes you can get away with like, you'll never believe what's inside. But I mean, there's only so often those clickbaity things are going to work and people are just going to get burnt out. So if you are, say, going to do a webinar invite, like I would test something that's just like, live training this week. Like, should I save your seat versus something like, and I'll still put, because I don't want people opening my email and thinking that like, oh, because I like to use result-based subject lines. I found that really works really well with my audience. So I'm not going to be like, 7,000 subscribers in 1 year, right? And then they're thinking that they're going to find out how somebody did that in that email, and then they're not. And it's like, oh, but you got to come to the webinar to find out. So I'll like put like little brackets like invite, free workshop, or freebie workshop, something like that, right? So that way they kind of know what's going on. And I'll just A/B test with my audience. What it essentially does is you get to pick 2 subject lines. You get to pick how much of your subscribers of each is going to get the subject line. And then after a certain amount of time, it can be a couple of hours. It could be a couple of days, though I wouldn't wait that long. You can pick a winner, like your system will do it automatically, and then it'll send it to everybody else. But I think it's really, you need to test the system. I think that curiosity ones can be really good. Like instead of being like testimonials doubled my results, you can say this doubled my results and people are going to want it. But notice that was still results and benefit based. It was just like, what? Occasionally you can have the eyes crying and people are going to want to open and be like, oh, what happened?
So you did say result-based subject lines. Can you go into what that means and what that would look like?
Particularly in the business to business space, people want sales. They want more time. They want less hassle. So like that would be a results-based thing. Or even say if you were helping somebody with, again, like their health and wellness, because we were just talking about lifting before we signed on, everybody. And so it would be something like, this added 20 pounds to my bench press. That's the result that people want. And so if your name hasn't trained them to open your stuff, because that's really your goal, is you don't want people to even look at your subject line. They just want to be like, oh my goodness, Kate emailed, like, I'm reading it, right? But if we need to rely on our subject line to get open because we haven't established that rapport yet, then that's why I usually like to go with something result-based. And it can be something like, my kid finally picked up his socks, right? Or get them to do this without that, right? And so that's what I mean by result-based. And again, you're going to find out with your audience what they resonate more with when it comes to subject lines. And I'd want to know, like, is it, like, I don't want to ever trick somebody into opening, but like, you do want them to be slightly intrigued.
Yeah. Like you said earlier, like, it's that hit of dopamine. It's what's going on in Kate's world. Like, oh my gosh, she was saying that this will work. Well, I already like Kate, so I'm definitely going to click on it. Like,
yeah.
It's
and do a variety of them.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I got slapped in the face, and people are like, oh my gosh, I got slapped in the face. And really it was like slapped. It wasn't like physically slapped in the face. And like, obviously you're going to let them know in the email, but try it out every once in a while. I just wouldn't always necessarily rely on the same type of like hype, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. That makes perfect sense. And basically, ultimately, your subject, this is me. Tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think that your subject line even matters if you haven't been emailing your people nearly as often. And they're like, who is this in my inbox?
Yeah, it's going to have to pull a lot more weight, to be honest with you. Because like it said, the thing that's going to get your emails open the most is your name.
It's true.
It just is. And again, there's nothing wrong. I know a lot of people, oh no, like I'm in the promotions tab. There's nothing wrong with the promotions tab, because people go into the promotion tabs when they are looking to waste some time. They need to do other things. They need to reply back to their boss, or their kids are at soccer and it's boring, or they should be writing their own sales page. So like, it's fine to be in the promotions tab, but you want your name to stick out. And then second, it would be your subject line to do a little bit of that heavy lifting.
I agree. Okay. So we hear a lot about people who are like, okay, I get people who open my emails, but getting them to actually click on things and take an action is like pulling teeth. So is there anything that you can suggest to kind of boost click rate inside of emails?
This one, you're gonna be like, what? Having pictures and making sure your pictures link out to wherever you want people to go. 100% people will click on it. So say like, I know you've got your great YouTube channel, right? So you can definitely have that line that says like, you know, click here to subscribe. Or if you're looking to earn $1,000 extra in your blog this week, then click here to watch this video. You're still going to have lines like that, right? Of actual text. But if you can have a screenshot of your video almost playing, people are going to click on the pictures. And they're like, oh, that's just something that they naturally do because it draws attention. Again, the other thing when it comes to that click-through rate is, again, it's not just like click here to watch the video. You're, again, reminding them what's on the other side. You have to sell the free and you have to sell the click. Even if you're like, but Kate, I'm just trying to get them to go over to a blog post. There's 100 different ways to save money. Like, why wouldn't they want to click? Again, they're going in the inbox to procrastinate. So in their head, they might not be in the mode to learn, because reading a blog post is a lot different than reading an email. So that's also where you're going to have a little bit of that sort of like friction, because they're not in this time span of, oh, I want to learn how to do that right now. But if the email is good enough, if it's selling the free, then maybe they will want to go ahead and click. So it is quite all right. We've seen click-through rates. Somebody just posted in Logan's Facebook group, and I couldn't believe it. Her click-through rate was like 30%. And I was like, most people's is like 1 to like 2. She showed the actual graphic. I'm like, oh man, I'm really good at what I teach. I'm like, Jesus, that's fantastic.
It is. That's amazing.
Link to the same place more than once as well. I think also that people, you know how like when you do your blog, how like, say if you're talking about something and you'd be like, and you just say like link to like your, you know, a different recipe that you have, or just naturally, like you say the word welcome series, like I would link to my blog post about welcome series. Kind of think about that too. As you're saying keywords in that email, link out to that blog post, or link out to that Facebook, or link out to that webinar. Like I will literally highlight the benefits that I think people like the most. So that way, one, they read it because it's blue. And two, they'll click on it. They subconsciously want that. They'll be like, ooh, I want to double my open rates. And then it'll get them where they need to go. So pictures, strategic words, and still do have those things. And occasionally I think that it's worth the effort to test out having like an actual button in your email as well, just to see what happens. People might want to click more to that. And I have not personally used them a lot, but I'm starting to test out and integrate because I want to be able to report back to my students and be like, you know what? I started using buttons and it works.
Yeah. Because I was just going to say, like, have you used buttons and do they convert better than actual text? So do you think that having like a call to action? Oh, sorry. What?
Pictures still work really, really well. Like I have to say.
I love you guys, you know, I love me some pictures and emails. Like it's my favorite thing in the world. But do you think that like a call to action line as well as having it naturally integrated inside of a post or inside of a post, blogger slip inside of an email is both helpful?
Yeah, 100%. And even shoving it into the PS as well. Because some people, you got to remember, not everyone's going to read every single word you say. We like to think so, but again, they're going in there to procrastinate and not use a lot of brain juice. So sometimes people just read like that first couple sentences and then they'll just read the PS because they're like, oh, that'll sum it up for me. So that's where you're going to sum it up. So again, have that direct call to action. Try having some buttons in there. Occasionally have a picture or two of like where you're putting people to go to. It'll be good.
Yeah. Everybody loves a good too long didn't read, which by the way, I'm so old. I had to look up what that meant. The TLDR. I did not know. I'm like, what's tilder? Like, is this something
I had to because AppSumo uses it. And I was like, what? I was like, is that like in real life? Is this like just the details are? And we're not that old, I don't think. But
I'm not.
I guess
I turned 30 in August. Like
I was gonna say you're younger than I am. So I'm just like, if you don't know what it is, then we're really out of time.
I know. I was like, there are a few things that have made me feel old, and having to look up in Urban Dictionary what TLDR was. That was up there. That was up there. That was a real slice of humble pie right over to me. Okay, so emails and the number that you should send in a week. I know that we've already said like there's no magic number, there's no hard and fast rule about it, but like, what do you think about like the right number of emails to send? Not during a launch, we can talk about that in a second, but like in just like a regular week.
At least once. And that's usually what I just have my students do. Like, I mean, if you really, really can only manage to sit down to write 2 whole emails a month, then you could do every other week. But I really want everyone to get into the practice of once a week, usually on the same day, just so that way you kind of get used to it as well. Your subscribers do as well. It's okay if you're like, oh, but I always send Wednesday and it's Thursday. Just go ahead and send an email. It's fine. At least once a week, you want to send it in there. Once you sort of build that muscle, and it's just like, you're going to find that it's the most fun part of your week. And it turns out to be the most profitable, even if you're not selling, because we can talk about casual selling too, if you'd like. And then once you sort of get better at that, then go ahead. Or say, like we talked about how we like to create a lot of different things. Say you normally email on Thursdays, but something comes up and you want to just email on Monday, go ahead. It's your business. It's your list. Your list isn't going to be mad that you showed up twice a week. It's fine. And I know some people that they actually, because they create a lot of content outside, like a lot of blog posts, a lot of Instagram things, they like emailing twice a week. So go ahead and email twice a week. I don't think that people are going to get annoyed by that at all.
I don't think that at all. I'm always like, yeah, like I would rather hear from somebody, even if they're like, I usually email on Monday. And you're like, oh, I didn't hear from you. Like there are some people who I'm like, I haven't heard from them in a while. I hope that they're okay. Like, doesn't matter if it's usually Monday and you send on Tuesday, just send something.
Exactly. Just, and even if it's how's everything going with your kids, fitness journey, meditation, like what I call it the 1-sentence email. You're gonna get a lot of eyes. So just so you guys know, you're gonna have to set aside some time to reply back to those. But I make all of my students send that one at least once because you'll get back the best responses ever. But you've got a game plan in your head.
I was going to say, mentally prepare for that one. Like, it's such a simple email.
Even if you get 5, like that's still huge. Because now you can build a relationship with those 5. And now they're going to be like, oh my goodness, like Sherry's the coolest person in the world because you reply back to them.
So one of the other things that that we've all probably heard at least once, probably like 150,000 times now, is like there's a number, some magic number that like you're not allowed to promote something to your list until you have X number on your list. I've heard 1,000, I've heard 500, heard 10,000. How do you feel about that?
That's dumb. Next question. That's dumb. Why is it dumb? In case if that's the question following that, she's like, I wasn't expecting that one.
Oh no, I was.
Why are you going to punish 99 other people who might want your help, who are serious, who are ready to put skin in the game because you haven't hit some magical, mystical number in your head? Don't be a jerk. Tell them about your paid stuff. That's right. I flipped it around. You're the bad guy for not telling them about things that you have paid.
I love that so much.
The reason why, though, for the record, because I can back up this claim, the reason why most people will be like, wait till you have 1,000 people. Because the copywriting methods they teach are bad. And so they are relying on numbers. Like, because logically, if you've got 1,000 people, you should make about 10 sales because they talk about 1% of your list buying. Now, I know both of us because I know that you're a listie. I guarantee you that your sales pages and stuff probably, I'm just saying, converts way higher than 1%. So that's why they will say it.
Yep.
To be honest with you. And that's why they'll say like, oh, you need like 500 because at 500, law of averages, you should get somewhere between 1 to 5 sales. And so I think that that's the reason why people are like piggybacking on this sort of stuff. Again, numbers do come in to supply. Like if you come to the two of us and you're like, I want to make $10,000 a month and you have 50 email subscribers, which is fine, but you only sell one $7 product, math will not be in your favor. Because they're not going to buy that $7 product multiple times. Mm-hmm. But if you tell me that you've got 50 of the right people and you're selling a $5,000 coaching package, there's nothing to say that you can't find 2 people out of that 50 to buy your coaching package. And then, yes, you did make $10,000. But that's, I think, where that sort of that math comes into play. But in short, don't be a jerk. If you have something that's going to save somebody time, that's going to save them effort, that you know is going to help them get more skin in the game so that way they take it seriously and they focus and they get the results, because I know y'all just want to help people, tell them. Just tell them. And you can be honest, and this works for business to business. This can work for business to consumers because I think people will find it refreshing. You can tell somebody in that welcome email that you do have products for sale and they're going to hear about it because you know that they want help with X, Y, and Z, or you wouldn't have signed up for my freebie in the first place. And now there's no other shoe to drop, everybody. And you can even say that phrase if you want to. Like I tell everyone in my first email, and I know that I'm business to business, but I think in consumers too, because it's setting them expectation. I'm like, oh, okay. It's like not every email am I going to talk about this stuff, but I know it's going to help. So they're going to get brought up sometimes. Okay.
And treating your people like people. That's another thing that you kept saying or keep saying. And I love it. Especially when it comes to your emails. Like, and the number of people on your list, nobody else knows. If you're writing to a list of 1 or a list of 1 million, nobody else knows that but you. Nope, not at all. So don't punish those people because you haven't hit a vanity metric in your head. That's all that it is. That's all it is, right? I know both of us are very into lifting, so we're very into vanity metrics. Don't let a vanity metric hold you back from helping people, everybody. Nope. Never let it hold you back. So, and I a lot of these questions that I got were like hard and fast rules. And I know that we just talked about how there's no hard and fast rules. So I'm just setting myself up.
Best practices though.
I know. Okay. So how often should we be selling to our email list? Is there some kind of like a magical balance of like, and I know that I'm wording this intentionally poorly. I cannot sell to my list if I have not emailed them in X number of days, or if it's been X number of weeks since my last product sale. Is there something about like you shouldn't sell before period of time?
I think that the two situations you brought up were very different in my head. If you have ghosted me for 3 months or until Black Friday rolls around, no, I don't think that you have the right to tell me about your paid product and send me like 8 emails about it. Absolutely not. Because you've proven to me that you're untrustworthy. I don't even know who you are. Right. So that situation is a little bit different. You can like maybe like casually sort of bring it up, but like that first email is about reestablishing the relationship and always proving what's in it for them. It's not like being like, oh, I'm so sorry, life got in the way. No offense to anybody, but life's getting in the way for a lot of us. The world is a very tricky place right now. Nobody, like, you're only sending that to make yourself feel better. So you're going to send them a nice sort of, you know, value email that's that nice sort of quick, that dopamine hit. And at the end, you're going to be like, and if you're wondering how I got your email in the first place, treat people like people, then tell them how you got it in the first place, right? Now, if it's like, how many times can you sell to people? If you're in business to business, I got to be honest, we got a lot of leeway with that, probably all of the time. And the thing is, and I have somebody that is in the budgeting space. And so what we do is we do casual selling, everybody, right? So she'll have her actual like email message about like either a quick tip or like what's going on. Even sometimes she'll mention a blog post. But literally, then it's like her signature, a PS message, whichever it is. And then at the bottom, it's like, do you need help with blank? In her particular case, one of her highest selling products is a biweekly paycheck budgeting system. So it's like, you know, it can be PS or just literally at the bottom, like, do you get paid biweekly and hate it that by that first Wednesday you've got no money? Click here. This is going to help. And so we just put like little advertisements, if you will, at the bottom of the email. Again, always talking about what's going on in the person's lives. We call it moments. We're going to talk more about moments live on the training on Monday or Tuesday. So sign up for that and we'll talk about moments for your business. But right there, it's a concept that nobody talks about. And I don't know why. And so then they'll go over and they'll click. So technically, yes, she makes money every time she emails. It's just how focused is she on a product in that particular email. And again, it's the budgeting space. But do you see Dave Ramsey eating the trash can? No. Is Susie Orman homeless? Absolutely not. So people in the budgeting niche do like to buy everyone.
Yep.
Right? Or we wouldn't have I wouldn't have even known those two names if they didn't. Yeah. Right? So that is what I would say to that. And again, I think that it also matters how you sell. If it's all like me, I made this great course. This is so fantastic. Or, you know, this is, you know, 25% off of this. Like if you're relying on the me, or like the urgency and scarcity, meaning like something's about to end or something's getting taken away. Yeah, everyone's going to hate that. But if you're just weaving it into some other tip that you're talking about or some other, how do you feel like this? It's like, which is fine. This course, we talk about this. Then that's fine.
First off, how do you find, like, do you find that the casual way of selling, especially in a B2C space, because I think most of us are B2C, in the B2C space, do you find, anybody who doesn't know, business to consumer, business to business,
non-business stuff.
Yeah. Now you guys know the insider lingo, by the way. Inside the B2C space, talking to like regular people, normal people, do you think that it is easier to convince them to buy through like a softer selling method than through a harder selling method, or the other way around?
I think that the soft selling sort of works. I do think that there are some, what I consider, for my personal taste, although other people will love them, I think that there are some things that I feel are just too aggressive for consumers or in personal niches that you're going to see that other marketers get away with or other business coaches, like in the B2B space, because we all know how the game is run. I think you can get away with being a lot more aggressive. But again, it's that thing of the other day, I was talking to the student of my, you know, Grow Your Amazing Plant course. And guess what you're going to do? You're going to hyperlink to the Grow Your Amazing Plant course when you say its name every time. And she was wondering, how can I get my tomatoes to not have bugs? So quick tip, put coffee grounds. And then it's like, if you're looking for more, you can go and look at this course. Or if you're looking for more, go read this blog post. So that way they know that you have it, especially for business to consumers, because I think we're so afraid and we don't want to be salesy. Your audience might have no idea what you sell. They might have none. So being able just to like casually mention it like this, or, you know, the other day I was working on updating, because you're not lying if you were actually updating a product, right? And it's like this, or I was talking to, or like this, or, you know, which got me thinking about, and then that's how you're going to sort of do it. Again, if you are running something time-based, then there is going to be a time in there, especially towards the end, where your subject line literally is going to be, and I know everyone hates this, but last chance for whatever it is that you're going to save. It's like, hey, I know that you want blank, blank, and blank, and that's exactly what we're going to tackle in this. And as it turns out, you only got 2 hours left to save 45%. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew. It's like, okay, thanks.
Yeah. And see, it's like much more, conversational, like organic inside of it, without feeling like you need to set up a time to launch constantly. Like you can still promote your stuff without saying like, okay, from Monday through Wednesday, from the 1st through the 5th, I must be talking about just this product. It doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah. And you don't have to offer anything like, say, special, because I think some people think that too, like, oh, I've got to have a discount if I'm going to talk about my planner. I've got to have this. No, it could be the time of the year. It could be like one of my favorite emails, which we talk about in the course a lot more. I left my keys in my trunk. And because I didn't want to spill my iced coffee. And I related that how people spend so much time on social media, but they're not going to pay attention to the thing that matters most, the keys or the relationship with the people on their email list. And then I parlayed it into a sale for my email marketing fairy template sets that I have. Like you can definitely, again, they're still getting something. They're still learning. They're still like, oh, that's right. And if this is also a problem for you, look, I've got something that's going to help it out. So it can just be randomly when you sit down that day. Okay.
And another thing that you said in Love Your List, which I'm like, I never thought of this. It was find the national holiday and then make an excuse. Be like, it's national, whatever it was, Bacon Day. Send an email.
Right. Mint julep. Right. It was a summit that I was part of like last month, and it was National Cheese Lovers Day. And I set 13 cheese puns in that email. And in an hour, and you guys, if you've ever spoken at summits, like, their all access passes are not priced very high, right? In 1 hour, I made $1,000 of affiliate commission off of a cheese pun email because it was that good. Like, you can have so much fun. Again, it can be like, National Black and White Day or Penguin Day. And then again, you can talk about, the arts and crafts that you have for penguins. You can talk about black and white cookies. You can talk about Antarctica. You can talk about how you have cuteness rage, kind of like how some people have pixel rage when it comes to Facebook. Like there's a lot of different ways that you can make those work out. So it's like the one that I use is the National Holiday. Oh, it's holidayinsights.com is the one that I love the most. And again, sometimes like March, they're kind of duds because I was going to use one for our webinar. Like none of these really are that exciting, but sometimes it's just worth it to use your creativity. Like Melba Toast Day. Like what? But sometimes you can be like, did you know that there's a Melba Toast Day? And then you explain what Melba Toast Day is. And then you can talk about something else that somebody wouldn't like normally know is a thing when it comes to your industry or niche. Like that's how you can make things sort of fun and interesting without being zany or swearing or any of that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Keep it fun. And, any excuse, that sounded like bad when I was going to say it, but like any excuse for you to continue to have a dialogue with your people. What emails are.
Okay, so now compliments you can get is, I feel like I know you. Or I feel like we're talking together, because that's it. Like when you write an email, I don't want you thinking that you're writing it to like a million people. Just think of a person who's almost as excited about your topic as you are. So almost as excited about growing plants, or almost as excited about organization. Because we all know, like, especially like, the two of us, like we're friends. So like we'll talk about like CrossFit and like powerlifting, like all this like nerdy stuff, right? And we'll talk about marketing. Like we love it. But like, your husband's just kind of like, right? Like their eyes just glaze over. So I like to pretend my email subscribers are almost as excited about like online business or like this sort of stuff that I am, and they want to hear it. And I think that when you go with the mentality of, oh, they want to hear this because they're also almost as excited for this as I am, it helps a lot.
It really does. Okay. I knew I was going to put in something about sales pages. So we're going to keep it pretty short because we're getting to the end here. What is if you could boil it down, what is the number one thing that you should have on a sales page?
I was going to say buttons to your checkout.
Oh, actually, no, just point. Like, do you have one button or like a bunch of buttons? Whatever.
A bunch of buttons. A bunch of buttons. We just have inside of Love Your List, we now have a Gress training vault. It used to just be available for the first couple months, but now it's going to be available all of the time. So you have lifetime access to it. And she was asked because she designs sales pages. And she's like, the number one thing that I see is people don't put their buttons enough, because you have to remember people are immobile. And even though they might somewhat be interested, they're not interested enough to scroll back up. That's what she said, or scroll back down. So, okay. Besides that, and again, taking off things like, testimonials or like your pricing or all of that sort of stuff, like bonuses. I think the biggest thing, especially to stand out, and this is like regardless of any industry, is by getting like really specific. And as we were alluding to a little bit earlier, moments. I think that the hardest part of a sales page for most people to write is the top, which is why the way that I approach sales pages, because spoiler alert, in the course, I'm going to teach you how to write 2 different versions of a sales page, because what good is having great emails if you're sending them to a crap sales page? So like, I literally am like full spectrum here. We also talk about what makes a great offer, because again, I can't have any piece of the chain be the weakest link. So for your sales page, start with the things that are easiest for you. So like, what's actually in there? One of my favorite sections that everyone skips over is frequently asked questions. Remember how we were talking about people just skim to the bottom, right? Some people just skip into the frequently asked questions. So you're going to have it there. So I think on that sales page, the top half is going to be most important, but I would write it towards the end, because I think everyone is trying to come up with like, oh, that really catchy or clever headline or any of this sort of stuff. They put so much weight on it. The only job of that headline or that subhead is to get them to read the next line. That's it. And you do that by getting them going, oh, how did she know? Like, that's the big thing. And that's really what moments are. Like I said, we're going to talk more about it in the training. And so I know that's why we're wrapping it up towards the end here. But like, even the headline on, I've got Trial Magic. It's like a little productivity course that I have. It has nothing to do with anything else, but it's there. And the first one is like, if your socks don't match and you've got 18 tabs open right now, keep scrolling, like roll on down. And that is so much more of like a, that's me, as opposed to, are you feeling overwhelmed in your business and missing deadlines? That could be on anyone's sales page. But now if anybody else reads, do you have all these tabs open and your socks don't match? They're going to be like, Kate, I think someone's copying your sales page, because I nailed them. I know what my person's life looks like. And sometimes you do have to have that, are you overwhelmed business line? So that way when you go back in, you can, as we call it in the course in Love Your List, and I don't know if we're going to talk about it too much in the live workshop, but we call it editing in the awesome. So I do this for myself too. It's like, are you overwhelmed because like your email list isn't replying back? So instead it's like, okay, how can I make this a moment? How can I send this? Are you tired of spending hours painstakingly picking out every word in the email only to hear crickets after you send it because nobody cares enough to reply back? And you're trying so hard. So it's like, oh, I get that. Or again, because I'm business to business, for me, it's not like, make money in your sleep. Everybody says that. So no one's going to pay attention to that. For my people, it's like able to slap down your debit cards at Whole Foods and buy raspberries anytime you want. Because that's what my person wants. My person might not necessarily want a Gucci bag or a G-Wagon or any of that sort of stuff. They want to be able to buy the food that they want to buy. Like, they're simple people. Yeah, there might be one thing that's like, ooh, I want the expensive sweatpants instead of the $2 sweatpants, right? But like, that's my person. So my moment is going to look a lot different than somebody else's. And that's how they're all like, I know that she's my person. So I would definitely make sure on your sales pages that you're really trying to be like, how can I say this more concretely? How can I get this more specific? But again, you've got to have that chunk of marble first in order to shape it into something good.
Yeah, you really do. I mean, like, this sounds terrible. Like, you can, Mythbusters did this like forever ago. And it was, the adage, you can't polish a turd. At the end of the day,
I love them.
You can polish a turd, but at the end of the day, it is still a turd. If you have an amazing product, you have an amazing relationship with your list, you know your people, making a sales page comes back to just putting it into words and not using that. I hate the word overwhelmed on a sales page because I'm like, overwhelmed by what? I have a dog that is incontinent now. I've got 3 cats who hate each other. My kids are a mess. My house is a mess. And I've burned dinner for the 80th time this week. Pick one area of overwhelm for me, please.
I was going to say, and they're going to make you bake because I know how much you hate baking.
And they're going to make me bake. Who else's birthday is next week? Like, I hate it. But
right.
The overwhelm, it has to be specific. It has to be specific. Like
We
the more
talk about
in
it-
your person's head, the
Yeah.
better.
We talk about it in the course. We call it the little blue pill test. So I don't know if you guys know that that's the color of Viagra, that we call it adult snuggle medicine in the course, because I do have children too, and most of my people do. So it's like, if somebody could honestly think their headline was for adult snuggle medication, because think about it. Are they overwhelmed? Are they tired because they're not getting what they want? Like, so when you start thinking to yourself, does somebody have confused this with adult snuggle medication? Then all of a sudden you can get more specific. So don't just rely on adult snuggle medication words. You got to make sure it's for you. And again, the examples that you pick, the more that you know your people, the more that you kind of zero in on them. I was like, oh, how do you know your people? Like, well, I talk to them. And two, I have to say that that's one of the things. Like, I think that I would have loved to like written movies, because I'm just fascinated by people and people's behavior. But like, you'll get there. But you've got to try. And I think that people think that writing copy is like, they're painting a picture, so they want every brush stroke to be perfect, or you're going to ruin the canvas. No. You need to go out and have a chunk of marble. You need a chunk of granite. And that's like your first draft. Then you are going to go in and you're not polishing a turd, but you're chainsawing and getting it down. Like the statue of David was a giant chunk of marble that he kept on refining, and it made it better. And that's what I want you to think of your copy as.
That's perfect. Like beyond words, perfect. Your copy is that marble that it is going to be the statue of David.
Yeah.
You just got to get it there, guys. It does take work, but it's worth it, the effort. Okay, so here was my last question. And this is actually one of my favorite questions, because I think that between your beautiful pink hair, or pink, it's purple and blue hair.
It used to be, guys.
Are you going to dye it again?
I am. I think that I'm going to go with more of a phoenix look. So because I have a naturally red face, I do think that the top half is going to be a darker blue, but then we're going to go into the reds and orange and yellows. If she can lift this out, then that's what we're going to do. If not, we're going to do mermaid hair again, and it's going to be this again, because I love that too.
I just can't wait to see it. All of it. Okay, so here is the pièce de résistance, which is a lot of people are afraid of being too much or too quirky or too weird inside of their emails, inside of their copy, inside of anything that they do on the internet. If you had any piece of advice to give people who are like holding back who they are or how they sound or how they speak, what would you say to them?
Stop it. I remember I had asked you once, because you're like, again, Carolyn's one of those like listies, like she took it and like ran with it, like action. And you're like, the one thing about the course that if it was anything, because I always tell people like, I don't think you should sit through my course. It's a resource. You come back when you're writing a new landing page. You come back when you're refreshing your sales page. You don't sit through at the very end to the very beginning. You watch the first couple modules to get the basics, then you just come back. You're a listie forever, so you're stuck with me. And it's like, you're like, you gave me permission to just be weird and be myself. When you give yourself that permission, writing is going to be easier, because it's going to sound like you. One of the best tips that I can give you for writing emails is to read it out loud. And that's like the biggest thing. So you're not just looking for like errors of like, oh, did I use wrong there, or there? You're looking for, does this sound stupid coming out of my mouth? Like if I was like, yes, queens, we're going to slay the day. That sounds stupid, because that's not the way I talk in real life. That's not my general attitude. But I'm like, what's up, homestresses? Let's go and kick this day in the ball. Okay, I can hear Kate saying that. Like that makes a lot more sense, right? Like, okay. And so I want you to start infusing yourself little by little. It's just like growing your bicep muscle, right? You're going to get stronger every time you do it. You can't, again, do a sit-up in 6th grade for the presidential fitness test and have a 6-pack forever. It doesn't work that way. So you're going to start. How do you say hi to people? Are you a what's up, or you're what's going on? Or you're a hey, hey. Are you a hey queen, right? Like, go ahead and throw that there. How do you say that things are good? And bring it up there. And the thing is that if all things are the same, and I got this from one of my mentors, Kendrick, if all things are the same, people are going to buy from people they feel are friends. Like that's just the way it is. So like if I and somebody else were promoting, say, the exact same affiliate thing, or, you know, we were both talking about Stitch Fix for some free grease in the same week, right? They're going to pick me if they feel that I, Kate, am their type of person. And the only way they're going to know I'm their type of person is if I talk like me, if I act like me. I have a disproportionate amount of alto saxophone players in my audience. And I always say that my people is the band geek table of the internet. Like, this is just where we roll. Like, somebody, they're either doing marching band, chorus, show choir, flag, dance line. Like, that's just my people, because I'm a giant nerd and it attracts giant nerds and dorks. Like, that's just who we are. And the way you put in there, again, the examples that you use, like, do you talk about like pop culture stuff? Is it more mainstream? It's fine. Bring that in there, because your people, I guarantee you, are looking for somebody just like you. I know it sounds really corny, but it's the truth. And even if you consider yourself like, well, I'm just like an average person, maybe there's something like you enjoy your cats. I know you've got 3 cats and they're always fighting, but you know what? You can be a cat person. Talk about your cats and what's going on. And people will really, truly appreciate it. So just sneak in little bits of you, and then you're just going to get so comfortable. And in the inbox, because not a lot of, people who know you in real life. I mean, some of them might be subscribed, but not a lot of them. And it's not like they're looking to go check their email address. I feel like you can be more of yourself in there, because it's a closed environment with a limited amount of people. And then it'll just spread into other things.
Oh, yeah. Start small and then go from there. Like, you don't have to go from like being essentially like black and white, like very prim and polished, good morrow kind fellows, to like, hey girl, hey, like hot pink everywhere overnight. This can be a process where you really are allowed to just be yourself. Like, that's really
all people want. And some people are like, but myself is very quiet and reserved. Then your copy should be very quiet and reserved. Mine is very like, I don't want to say that like I'm zany, but I'm very dorky and I've got ADHD. So guess what? My writing has ADHD in it. I interrupt myself with parentheses all of the time. I use cheese puns because I'm corny. Like, that's just the way that it works. So write like you.
Yeah. Just be you. There's one thing. That's my favorite thing. Everybody is like, whenever I get an email was like, should I really buy Love Your List? I'm like, anything that Kate ever puts in front of you, the answer is yes. Like, don't even bother asking. I'm going to say yes, because she's going to give you the permission that you've been looking for.
And I think that's what makes the course a lot different than everything else. And again, spoiler, y'all, it's getting open on Monday. Oh, what? Spoiler, it's getting a price raise for the first time in 2 years, Wednesday night. So first thing on Thursday morning, it's finally getting a price raise. So now you guys know there's no other shoe to drop. Woo, right? Because you get 6 months coaching with me, where I will look at your copy. Technically, I will look at a new piece of copy every single week. And for me, outside of the course, to look at one piece of copy, it's $500. And for the price of the course, it's like, if you have me look at 3 things, you've made your money back and then some at this point. Yep. So like that's why we do this. It's just like, oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. So Kate, where can everybody find more about you? And I'm spoiling this. There's a link in the YouTube description to go sign up for Kate's webinars. It's on Monday and Tuesday, right? Can you tell us about
Monday and Tuesday? Sure. So it's how to email so good they click the screen, because obviously, why not, right? So in this one, we're going to talk about, again, how you can turn, say, like a normal value email into a sales email with just a couple of words, because there's actually a lot of phrases. We're going to talk a little bit more and dive into deeper about really like that freebie that you're going to create that's going to attract people. And you might not think that this matters, but like you'll see there's a case study in there. We have somebody in the course who for 7 years, she only got 1,000 subscribers. She took the course and she got 7,000 subscribers in less than a year. So she like 7 million percented roughly her list after 1 year, just by utilizing like the Sir Mix-a-Lot principle, because it finally zeroed in. And again, it wasn't ads. And I know that some people be like, oh, only 7,000, but that was huge. Like, to her, it was huge to me too. Like, I would like, that'd be super stoking, right? So we're going to talk about that. We are going to talk a little bit more about what are some of the actual like really important metrics to actually be talking about. We're going to be talking about the worst types of emails to send, which are not send emails, and the worst place to be in, which shockingly is not the spam folder. You might think it is, but it's not. We're going to talk all about that inside of there. And I always save a lot of time to answer questions and to give examples. I think we have an email going out later on today where I'm going to ask people industry. So if you sign up really quickly, you'll be able to tell me your industry. So that way the examples that I weave into the workshop can be a little bit more related to you. Because, you kind of usually rely on what you know. So like usually for me, it's like health, fitness, productivity, business, probably to in lots of different industries as well. But then you'd be able to ask me like, well, what would it do this? Or like, how would you monetize that? And if you stay to the end of the training, you guys are going to be able to get a Starbucks coffee on me for the next day. So that's always really fun too. Because I like to reward people for taking action and for staying. And that's whether you become a listie or not. So of course, we're going to talk about the course. But you guys, y'all know how webinars work. I'm not trying to hide anything. You'll hear about it like the first 2 minutes and you'll see my face go like this. Whoa, like, so now everybody knows where it's coming, right? But this is still like, it's really great stuff. I really, truly think so. And again, I know I started talking about this, but the AD took over. What makes this course different is that I'm not just going to teach you what to do, like use contractions, make sure you link to your thing that you want people to go to more than once. I'm going to make sure that mentally you actually hit send, because I can tell you you're blue in the face, but if you do not hit publish, if you do not hit send, none of it is going to work. So we go on practical stuff. We go on the mental aspect of everything. We go on getting over any type of fears and junkies, and it's always going to come up. So like, I think that a lot of people really love that first module way more than they thought they would, because again, the first thing I'm going to have you do is say, being on my list is a privilege. When you change your energetics, so I don't call it mindsets, energetics. When you change your energetics, it's going to matter. But again, we're going to talk about sales pages, because why am I going to teach you how to write a sales series if you're sending them to something that's bad? Same thing with the offers. Why am I going to send you there? Because it's something that's bad. So we're going to cover the whole gamut in the whole course itself.
I love it. Guys, this is my favorite course that I still look back at. Like, I still open it up before like a launch or something. I'm like, I just need a good dose of Kate in my life. Like, I just need her to tell me being on my list is a privilege.
It is, right? And people are lucky that they get to buy from you, because it's the truth, right? And we have a whole course, because we were in 2.0. 3.0 is coming out later on this year. You guys get that for free, because like I said, once you're listed forever. So we have a whole module just on copywriting, because that's how I made all of my money. Like, I'm not somebody that like hit it big on Pinterest or SEO and then all of a sudden I'm an email expert because I had 1 million people on my list. If you can't make a lot of money with 1 million people on your list, you suck, and I'm taking back your business card. But like, I got paid lots of money to make people click buttons on the internet to buy things. So like, I'm going to teach you not only how to do something, but why it works and how you can apply it to your own industry as well. But yeah, like obviously there's templates. I'm going to make your life easier, but I want to make sure you got all the tools in your toolbox.
All of them.
All of them.
Thank you so much for coming today and bestowing your knowledge on us. And so people can find you at, what is your website?
You go to katedoster.com, and I do have a podcast. We're going on a bit of a summer/spring break, but it is every other week. It's called Inbox Besties, and you can go there as well. If you're like, I'm not really in the mood for a webinar, I'll make sure that Caroline drops the link. I do have a freebie that's 2 years worth of strategic email ideas. So I literally like January, week 1, send this, week 2, send this. If you're a rule breaker, you can like switch them up, or you can like go look at May. I let them know if it's like, oh, it's mint julep day in May. So like, you have to send this in May. So, and if you're like, but Kate, like, what about, January, February? They come back. So it's fine. If you're watching this and it's like July, it's cool. The rest of the months come back. Just recycle it. You're good.
Oh yeah. It's fantastic, guys. If you're one of those people who's like, it is Friday at 3 p.m. I have a half an hour before I can pick up the kids. I have no idea what to send. That's an awesome freebie for it. Kate, thank you so much for joining us. And guys, we will see you hopefully at the webinar. You guys should all sign up. It's going to be fantastic. Bye.
Bye, everybody.